Hi guys. Have you ever wondered when you're watching some of the videos on YouTube, what the heck are some of those tools these guys are showing in their toolbox? I mean, I have. I'm going to be honest. I was never a professional mechanic, but I did have my own garbage hauling business for 10 years. And I did a lot of my own maintenance on garbage trucks with hydraulic systems and pneumatic systems and electrical systems and just diesel mechanics on a small scale, anything I could handle that didn't require jacking or just didn't require heavy duty diesel mechanic equipment. I did a lot of repairs. I'm not ASE certified or anything like that. And I turned into a home mechanic long ago, long before I had that business. I turned into some semblance of a diesel truck mechanic over a period of 10 years, and I had tools that I accumulated to do all that stuff. But a lot of them I don't use anymore. And a lot of the toolbox tours that I look at on YouTube, I don't even know what some of that stuff is. I don't know how to use it. I don't know where you buy it. I don't know what it's for. And you might feel the same way. So I want to make a home mechanic video of things that you might need around the house and for fixing your cars and fixing your lawnmowers and fixing your furnace and fixing your motorcycle, things like that. Just simple stuff, bicycles, whatever. So now that I said that, let me start with bicycles. Bicycles are an interesting thing that a lot of people have in their families, and the more stuff you could do on a bicycle on your own, the more money you'll save and the more time you can ride your bicycle and keep it out of the shop and you just fix it yourself. And there's some pretty simple tools that you can get to do that with. And this is a small selection of bicycle tools that I accumulated over the years that do almost everything you need to do on a bicycle. You have a chain whip right there for removing gear cogs. Okay, there's some freewheel tools stuck to that magnet strip. Some cone wrenches. There's a spanner wrench to get your bottom bracket off. There's a chain breaker right there. And a little triple Allen wrench that you can put in your backpack or your bag behind your seat. And this is a third hand brake tool for adjusting your brakes. And there are some other things you can get, but a lot of times you can turn a bicycle upside down and fix it with these tools right here. And normal tools that are in your toolbox. Okay. That right there is a chain cleaner. You just snap a can of WD-40 or some kind of a chain lube onto it, and you can just run your chain through it and then wipe it off with a rag. It'll clean and oil your chain. Get you around. There's a spare spark plug for a chainsaw. There's some spare chains sharpened for a chainsaw. Okay. I have 3 different chainsaws, and they're down there. The different sizes, they're for different things. And I keep a spare bar for each one of them. And a spare chain for each one of them, and 2 in some cases, and a spare bar for that one that's a different size. I have an electric chainsaw sharpener to do the heavy sharpening whenever you hit a rock or something and you really mess up one of your teeth. But I also use files to sharpen my chainsaw. Chainsaw set of files. If you're a chainsaw owner, you should have a set of files and you should know how to sharpen your chainsaw. Bench tools, a belt sander to sharpen your lawnmower blades, a grinder to sharpen your chisels, and other things. There's a wire brush on this wheel that I use for buffing things up when they get rusty, or just a variety of things you can do with a bench grinder. You can put a polishing wheel on there if you want to. You put another grinding wheel of a different grit on there if you want to. A work surface. If you don't have a work surface, you should get something that has a work surface on it for your toolbox. Okay, this toolbox work surface isn't being used for work at the moment, but you can see I have a bunch of chainsaw related things on it: ear protection, gloves, a strap, for my pole saw because we're in the chainsaw season. We're cutting a lot of wood, doing a lot of weird things. But I also keep my chargers on top of this. I keep them covered to keep the dust out. I keep paper towels on a magnetic towel rack. People look at tools, and if you look at this toolbox tour and you put a comment on here, do you ever use your tools? I'm just going to laugh at you saying that, because paper towels, guys, go Joe. Wipe your tools off. They last longer. Just because they look new doesn't mean you didn't use them. Okay, you should have a selection of paints, fluids, and cleaners. You'll figure out what those are. If you can get a nut and bolt and washer selection, that'd be great. If you do a lot of fixing of things like that. This is a tap and die set for the really hard fixing. If you're getting that thing out, you're kind of having a bad day, but it's nice to have it. Lay in a supply of the things you use a lot. If you have a work surface, it sure is going to help. And if you do have a work surface, in my case, I have a pretty big work surface, and I've decided that machines like this are not going to be permanently mounted. This one is clamped down with a vice grip clamp, and when I don't use it, I take it off. This is a sharpener for circular saw blades. This is a brush cutting blade for my pole saw. There's a regular circular saw blade. When I get done with this, I'll just put it on the shelf below, and when I need my chainsaw sharpener, I'll bring it over, and I'll put it in 2 holes that are right here to mount it temporarily with some pins, and I'll use it. Make the best use of what you have. If you need to paint, get a paint gun. Okay, a lot of times all you need to do is just get some spray cans of the color you want. Paint your picnic tables or whatever you're going to paint. If you need air, get a good regulator, and do invest in 3/8 air fittings and quick releases. The size of the hole on this is dramatically bigger than the 1/4 inch. Go to the air drawer here. I'll show you. This is a 3/8. Okay. This is a 1/4. You know the difference in those hole sizes. The amount of flow you get out of this one is enough more that you'll surprise yourself the first time you put air in your tires. So be careful, especially if you have a big compressor. What do you need for a compressor? I can tell you don't need that most of the time. Okay, I had that because I had a business, and I found out that the kind of compressors you're seeing on YouTube won't fill a big truck tire to 105 PSI in less than about 30 minutes, even if it's only down 10 pounds. Okay. So I got this because this is 24 CFM at 100 PSI, and it has a max of 175. So this is a 80-gallon 2-stage compressor with a 6.5 horsepower electric motor. Probably don't need that in your shop. So figure out what you need. Most air tools run at 90. If you're going to run a lot of sanders, get something with a big tank, like a 60-gallon tank at least, so they'll run for a while before it has to kick on. And look for CFM. And don't worry all that much about PSI, but remember, the more PSI you have, the longer it's going to run off your tank before the compressor has to kick on. And at which point you'll be restricted to the CFM that's coming out of your compressor. Anyway, compressors are a whole other YouTube, and there are lots of YouTubes about them, but I'm just saying I have this one. If you see it in my videos, I have this because I had a business, and I truly needed it for that business just because I was airing up truck tires in the wintertime, especially. They go down when it get cold. They drop a few PSI, and you try airing one of those up with a little 21-gallon compressor at 125 PSI, and you're going to be there for a long time. And time is money when you're in a business. If you do automotive stuff, and if you have a lawnmower, if you have a motorcycle, you should have a grease gun. There are things that need greasing. You might need some rubbing compounds, depending on how much body work and painting you actually do. That's up to you. I use magnet strips to hang things that I use a lot so they don't have to sit in my toolbox and take up space. And since this is my metal working area with my bench vise, I keep my cold chisels and I keep my punches and my hacksaw. Everything hangs from this area that has anything to do with metal, except for things that are powered for cutting. I have a drawer for cutting stuff. I call it the mess maker's drawer because it's there for making a mess. And everything in here is about cutting or grinding. I used to call it the cut and grind drawer. It used to be in one of these small drawers. Actually, everything in this drawer used to be in that drawer right there. I don't even know how I did it. But you can see, again, the big fittings on my die grinder. Okay, cut-off wheel, metalworking tool, air chisel, mostly a metalworking tool, but it's come in handy for other things. Diamond file set, cut-off wheels, grinding wheels, and masonry wheels underneath here to go on my corded grinder. This is a set of spade bits that I use on my drill press or on hand drill. Just depends on what I'm doing with it and where I am. And underneath here I have a variety of blades for different saws and different bits, burrs, deburring tools, and that kind of thing. You have to decide what you need, and you may end up buying a power tool to do a job, and next thing you know, you're going to want to have more blades for it or more bits for it just because you figured out you use it more than you thought you would on other things. That's what happened. I bought a reciprocating saw, realized you can buy pruning blades for them, and you can cut trees. Small ones, but you can cut trees. So think about that. When you do yard work, do your tools have to do yard work? Do you need yard work tools? Cordless yard work tools are fantastic. That's a 20-volt trimmer. It's unbelievable how long that battery lasts and what it will cut. 20-volt hedge trimmer. Also unbelievable how long the battery lasts and what it will cut. And I have gas-powered hedge trimmers that don't have the capacity that this one has with the battery as far as how big a branch it will cut. And over there, I have some gas-powered tools hanging on the wall that run off a pole saw. And frankly, this one will cut thicker branches than the gas one will, just because the opening is bigger and it will cut it. I have a chipper shredder. Do you need that? You decide. Okay. I have a pressure washer. Do you need that? You decide. I have a 12-inch compound miter saw I bought specifically to build a deck with so I could save the money and do it myself. And it was part of the cost of the deck, and now I have it. I've used it a few times for cutting PVC pipe and some other stuff. It's not all that handy to me. If I had a miter saw stand for it, it'd be a heck of a lot more handy, and I'd probably use it more. I have a 40-volt electric pole saw. Fantastic. Even better than the 20-volt stuff. Battery lasts forever. Cuts unbelievably. I have a big shop vac because I have a lot of stuff in my shop. It's a pretty good sized garage. I have a walk behind trimmer because my wife and I are in our 60s. We want to cut a 20-inch swath out by the chain link fence, and we want to use that for little stuff. So we use that for the big stuff. Zero turn mower. When you have a mower and you have a motorcycle, I don't fix this car. I have no idea how it works. It's all computerized now. But when you have all this stuff, you need a toolbox. And this is my drill press. I got it at Lowe's. It's a Porter cable. Does everything I need it to do. It's great. It has a laser on it. It has a light on it. All you do is just plug it in and do whatever you want. This is my air hose. It's on a reel, just like in a shop. My air line runs across the ceiling to the other regulator. You decide how much air you need. Metal chop saw for metalworking. That's actually drone and GoPro supplies in that black and yellow box. My 3 chainsaws and somebody else's miter saw that they need to come and pick up as I store it for them. Music for the shop underneath. You probably want music. Keep all my oils in one spot. What kind of oils do you need? You figure it out. Okay, what's in the toolbox? Cheapo 1/2-inch drive pneumatic wrench I've had for 30 years. All right, and I use it with these impact sockets, and so far it has done everything I need it to do. On the garbage truck, I had to put some long handles on some sockets once in a while to break things loose, and then this would do the rest. 3/8 air ratchet. Had it for about 25 years. This is an old Popular Mechanics impact set, and so is this one. It's probably not made anymore, but really tough stuff. I've done a lot of work with all of them. I call this the pounder's drawer because this is what you pound stuff with. I don't have the biggest selection of hammers, but I keep my ball peen hammer over on the bench by the vise because that's where I use it the most. Pliers, because this is Missouri. Not many pliers in there anymore. Got some brake pliers. That's one thing I want to talk about. Brake pliers are a specialty tool. This box is now, in a large part, a specialty box. And that the things that are in here I don't use as much as I use the other things. I bought this box to be my roll-around box. I take right to what I'm working on. You'll see why in a minute. It's set up to do exactly that. This used to be the only box I had. It's on wheels, but got so heavy, it was hard to roll it around. So there's a little bit of everything in this top drawer. I have my snap ring plier set in here. Some brushes, those aren't even mine, those my wife's. Shims, dowels, chainsaw, sharpening kit, change your battery testing thing, some battery tools, just some miscellaneous. This is a tool that I made so I could take the clutch off of a chainsaw, and it works great for that. Just a lot of little piddly stuff in here. That jeweler screwdrivers, I actually use those. I used one just the other day. But having a toolbox where you actually know where things are is much better than having a toolbox that's so stuffed full of stuff that you have no idea where you put anything. This is supplies, and I called it supplies because I like a little humor in my toolbox. All this stuff was on my workbench because I didn't have room for it until I bought this box over here. So now I have a supply drawer. My air drawer, I showed you part of that, but a lot of this is fittings that I don't use now. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it. Maybe somebody will need some fittings and I'll just give them to them. Eventually, I guess I'll just toss them, but this drawer will become something else. But this is a high quality airbrush right here that I've used for painting things that you would paint with an airbrush. Had a good one. I have filters and several different truck tire gauges because I had several different trucks, and a blowgun. This is decent. I have another blowgun that's a little better, and I have a little kit of, like, for inflating balls, like footballs and soccer balls for the kids, and just different air valve core things. A core removal tool goes in there, and it's out at the moment because I was using it someplace else. My electric drawer is mostly spares for my welder now, and just fittings to put on the end of wires so you can screw terminals and that sort of thing. And there's a spare cord for my battery tender for my motorcycle and lawnmower. I have 2 battery tenders. This is gloves and some miscellaneous soft things, and there's a selection of butterfly knives and throwing knives down in there. don't know what state you're in, but in my state, all that stuff is legal. I have it. It is legal, and I have it. I'm going to sit down on my bench, or my stool, that is. And underneath my messmaker's drawer, I have what used to be my 1/2-inch ratchets. 1/2-inch big ratchets. I don't use 1/2-inch all that much. And SAE and metric, it doesn't make all that much difference. In metric, I don't use much at all in 1/2-inch. So it's in here. And I have a digital torque gauge. This is an impact driver. This can come in very handy. I recommend getting one of these because eventually you'll figure out what to do with it. I have a 1/4-inch torque wrench, a 1/2-inch torque wrench. My 3/8 torque wrench is in my motorcycle drawer. This is the drawer that has wrenches in it for SAE work, like on my van. I have 2 vans outside that are both American made, and so I have a lot of SAE stuff in this drawer, so I can work on that. There's a set of 1/2-inch swivel sockets. This is a pretty cool old Popular Mechanics stubby ratchet that I got from a friend who recently passed away. Then I have spare wrenches. A little humor. These are wrenches that could come in handy, but I don't use them predominantly anymore. These over here were my primary wrenches for about 10 years when I had my trash business. These are from Harbor Freight. I never broke one of these ever. I think they were $19.95 for 14. High polish, quote unquote. It's like the junkiest polish of all time, but they've held up. They never broke. I took some really seriously stuck things off with them with cheater bars. I've never broken one. I don't know how they're made now, but I'm not even sure where those are made. Probably Taiwan. This is my bodywork drawer for different kinds of bodywork, sanding and whatever. Underneath here, I guess I need to rearrange this a little bit. Even more, I told you, specialty tools. That's a coil spring compressor. I don't recommend that at all. It's very unsafe.